أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا صدق الله العلي العظيم
اللهم صل على मोहम्मद आपके सामने हो मैं आपके सामने हूँ नहीं बस اللهم صل على محمد
एक बार आवाज़ बुलंद सलवार आजकल के लिहाज से आज मैं बीवी सही सकीना की जब दाग बेकसीना सकीना उठा सकी और दर्द दिल न खौफ के मारे सुना सकी खाए तमाचे शिमर के जब तक के खा सकी सिनकम था दुख बहुत न बर्दाश्त ला सकी रोई तो जालिमों ने जफा बेशुमार की आखिर ये जबर देख के मौत इख्तियार की आखिर ये जबर देख के मौत इख्तियार की गर आह की तो शेम पुकारा खामोश और चुप हुई तो बेपिदरी ने कहा के रो गए दते अतार से पुकारी के पानी दो गए याद करके रह गई बाबा की प्यास को गए याद करके रह गई बाबा की प्यास को सोई जो आंसू पोंछ के चश्मे पूरा अब से है हुसैन कह के फिर उठ बैठी ख्वाब से है हुसैन कह के फिर उठ बैठी ख्वाब से दिल में समा गया था जो शिमरे लई का डर सोते में कांप ये कहती थी रात भर फरियाद छीनता है गोहर मृगो फरियाद छीनता है गोहर गोहर आता है इब्ने साथ जो पूजा के मैं किधर ज़ैनब फूफी संभालो कलेजा धड़कता है सज्जाद भाई देखो ये खूली गुड़ाता है सज्जाद भाई देखो ये खूली गुड़क तय चुपती तो चुपती बोलती थी जो डरी हुई वाशिम्र आया तन में इधर थर तरी हुई थी आह बात में लपर धरी हुई गर्दन की रीसमान लहू से भरी हुई दम रुकने लगता था तो रसन खोल ले थे बाहर जो शिमर बोलता तो बांध ले थे बाहर जो शिमर बोलता तो बांध लेते थे जब दाग़े बेकसी ना
खोल दो। नहीं नहीं, मेरे पास है छोटी।
Please recite the Surah Al-Fatiha for all the Marhumeen here, for my Marhumeen and your Marhumeen, and all those who do not have anyone to recite Al-Fatiha. Let's also take this moment to recite Dua Sahat for all those in need. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، واللعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، ولا تبذر تبذيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Alhamdulillah, we've all been given a beautiful deen from Allah. This is a deen that doesn't leave questions unanswered, a deen that covers every aspect of our lives. From the way we eat, to the way we sleep, to the way we interact with others, every aspect of life is covered by this deen. There are no aspects of our lives that Islam has left unanswered or unaddressed. Sometimes we have to look for the answer, but it's there. It's most certainly there. It may not be explicitly stated all the time, but most definitely Allah has given us some way of guidance to get that answer. Whether that's through the Quran, whether that's through hadith, etc. And that governs even the way that we use our own resources, the way we use the ni'mat of Allah. That Allah has given us ni'mat, He's given us blessings. Everything from the air we breathe, to the food we eat, to the clothes we wear, to the family we have, it's all blessing from Allah. But with that blessing comes responsibility as well. And in the Quran, I just read part of a verse from Surah Isra. Verse 26, this is the end portion. وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا. What does that mean? It means do not squander wastefully. Do not waste. It's a conversation we all have to have with ourselves and on an individual and family basis. That have we been using our ni'mat and our resources in the right way? Or have they been wasted? And I'm sure every one of us at some point is guilty of some degree of waste. But we just have to know that if we look at Ayatullah Dastaghaib's book, The Greater Sins, where he itemized, he lists one at a time, several of the greatest sins. Waste, israf, extravagance, it comes at number 32. It's not number 1, it's not shirk, but it made it to the list. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful not to take part in sins, especially the greater sins. And the ones that even our ulama identify, this is a serious sin, don't commit it. And even if this is number 32, it still made it to that list. So we have to be careful. And in fact, that verse that I recited, that portion of the verse, some mufassirin link that back to the pre-Islamic Arabs who would sacrifice many, many camels and have these really extravagant meals. They would kill all these camels, they would eat the meat just to show off their wealth. It was that kind of extravagance that existed. And the Quran explicitly said, don't do that. Rasul came to get rid of that behavior, to remove that behavior from society. And in fact, the 6th Imam alayhi salam says, surely moderation is liked by Allah. Allah dislikes extravagance. Right? Even something like, it's said that with the 6th Imam alayhi salam, when he was with his companions, he put up dates one time. And the companions began to throw the seeds of the dates. And he told them, why are you doing this? I don't like this corruption. This is a waste. That those dates at that time were used to feed camels. The date seeds were used to feed camels. There was a use for it and they threw it away. And Imam was unhappy with that. He would be unhappy with those people who would take the excess water. After they drank water, there's a little left over, they throw it away. Imam would say, don't do that. It's not acceptable. And the Imams would preach a moderation approach. Imam Raza, in fact, someone came to him and said, oh Imam, how much should I spend on my family? If we ask that today, the answer would be quite a bit, right? The Imam says, there's somewhere between two things that are disliked. Companion says, Imam, I don't understand what you mean. What are the two things that you're talking about that are disliked? The Imam says, one is miserliness, stinginess, and the other extreme is extravagance, it's waste. And the 6th Imam alayhi salam says, do you think if Allah has given us given somebody more wealth, that they're somehow favored, especially in the eyes of Allah, in the view of Allah, versus if He gave somebody else less, that they're hated by Allah? No, not at all. Whatever wealth they have belongs to Allah. He gives it to whomever He chooses as a trust, to consume from that in moderation. Now if He has excess, He must distribute what He does not need to others. To the poor especially, fulfill the needs of the poor. And those who consume in moderation, that consumption is halal. And those who don't, that's haram. So there are many things to unpack from this hadith of Imam alayhi salam. That firstly, all the wealth we have, everything we have is not ours. Fundamentally, it is not ours. It's the wealth of Allah. Now imagine that. If we spent and took that mindset, that now I'm not spending my own money, I'm not spending my own resources, not eating my own food. No, this is all given to me by Allah as a trust. I have a responsibility, right? You're spending the wealth of Allah. Can you imagine the responsibility that comes with that? It's so much more than, if you go on TV, for example, you have people saying, well, this person earned that money, it's theirs, let them spend it however they want. It's not what our religion is teaching us. And there's a responsibility as well when you see those who are less fortunate than you, that if you consumed what you needed, beyond that, that's when you must help them. And again, I want to reiterate that the Imams are not saying don't make money. They're not saying don't, fulfill some extent of what you want, for example. They're just saying don't overdo it. And we have a bad habit of overdoing things. We overdo it a lot. We get really extravagant. We go to an extent that's totally unreasonable. That even something, for example, spending on something that is just a little bit of money, right? It's a little bit, but it's useless. Even that, Ayatollah Dastaghaib writes that even that we should be doing. That falls under the extravagance and the waste. And even if it's something for a good purpose, but if we spend an unreasonable amount on it, Ayatollah Dastaghaib says that we shouldn't do that either. MashaAllah, we go to a wedding today, huge ballroom, you have a huge hall booked, thousands of people, food to feed a small city. MashaAllah, there's a DJ, but that's another discussion for another day. The chocolate fountain, whatever else. I mean, is that what our religion taught us? But if we put some of that money, maybe if we put some of that money into feeding a poor person, how many people could we feed with that? MashaAllah, even this has reached the Azhar Syed al-Shuhada. So unfortunate. That the Majlis is not considered complete until you call the big name, right? The person who will charge you thousands of dollars per appearance, demands limo service from the airport to the hotel to the center, demands a 5-star hotel. I mean, this is so much extravagance that we've done. And it's trickled into our Azhar as well. We have to be so careful of this. The last thing we want is to take something like the Azhar Syed al-Shuhada and put in sin. Even if it's number 32 on the list, it's still a sin. You don't want to put sin with a good deed. It is not constructive in any way. Now, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says there are 3 traits of the extravagant. Number 1, he eats more than is needed. Number 2, he wears that which is not suitable, more than suitable. And 3, they buy things unnecessarily. So Imam is giving us exact guidance to how to identify those elements of ourselves where there is extravagance, and those habits of our own where we have extravagance leaking in. And in fact, we find that even extravagance and waste can destroy families. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajah. He says if someone has close relatives in need, he must give them wealth. He must give them enough. Otherwise, he's guilty of qatar rahmi, which is another one of the major sins. That if he sees somebody in need, one of his close people in need, he must give them, or he must give to them. If he sees them in debt, he must help them pay off their debt. If he sees them in need of medical attention, for example, or medicine, he must help pay for that medicine. This is a communal responsibility here. Really, we find just why israf is so bad. Why waste is so wrong. It's wrong because not only is it contempt toward the niyat of Allah, toward the ni'mat of Allah, it's contempt toward Allah. It's saying, Allah, you don't get to tell me how I use what you gave me. But more than that, it's also violation of the rights of others. That's one of the reasons why it's so wrong in our religion. And it's just look at the extent of sin that can be caused from that one sin. Israf on its own can cause other sins as well. The Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says that if someone hoards wealth and doesn't fulfill the rights of the poor, he'll be branded with that wealth on Qiyamah. Meaning that wealth will be burned into his skin on the day of Qiyamah. That's serious. Right? We don't want to be one of those people. On the day of Qiyamah, we always talk about the followers of Imam Hussain. We'll be free of punishment. But if you commit a sin, justice is still present. We have to avoid sins at all costs. That Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, we have another narration of his, that when he had extra wheat in his home, he had extra, right? The servants had bought some more for some more days. But there was a wheat shortage, a food shortage in the area. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, no, take some of that wheat, take it, but what's not needed for now, and go ahead and sell it in the market. Make sure it's accessible to other people. This wording is unacceptable. And the Imams is a clear precedent that the Imams do not believe that this is acceptable. So as followers of the Imam, we're under the obligation to emulate that same exact philosophy. And this idea of waste and extravagance, I can't help but bring here the idea of food. Right? We waste a lot of food. The sixth Imam alayhi salam saw that people were throwing half-eaten fruits outside of their homes. And he went to them and said, why are you doing this? What have you done? If you're full, there are other people who haven't eaten yet, who are hungry. You should give that to them. Again, it's a communal responsibility. And even if that means, Ayatollah Dasl Ghaib says, even if that means giving to animals, it's better than just throwing it out for waste. Right? And even this just to solidify this point on the wasting of food. There's a prophet of Allah by the name of Daniel. And Prophet Daniel, it said that he would go through the streets and there'd be pieces of leftover bread on the streets. People would throw their extra bread. You know what Prophet Daniel eventually does? Calls for the azab of Allah. The azab of Allah. You know what a prophet calls for the azab of Allah? It means they exhausted every other option. The prophets don't want to do that. It's not what they want to do. If Nabi Nuh wanted to call for an azab on his people, if that was the first thing he wanted to do, then he wouldn't have spent hundreds of years trying to preach to them. Right? The prophets do not want to do that. That's not what they want to do. It's only when they're driven to the point of necessity, where there's no other option for them. Prophet Daniel, this made Prophet Daniel so upset that there was no other option for him. Now when we go to the Majlis or to iftar at our mosques, mashallah, we throw away 4, 5, 6 trays of rice just like that, no questions asked. Throw away so much food. You see how many bags of garbage leave our centers? After one night, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, so many bags of trash. And there's so much food being wasted. I would bring up the example of Yemen, for example. You know, in Yemen you have young children who are dying of hunger, where their mothers are boiling leaves to feed to their children. Here we are wasting food. But I don't need to do that necessarily. Right? Within our own state, within our own area, there are definitely people in need. We have the audacity to throw away the food and the ni'mat of Allah. That food is the ni'mat of Allah. And that's why, you know, just to sum up a few major points here. That waste and extravagance, this is contempt. It's contempt of Allah. It's contempt of the niyat of Allah, of the ni'mat of Allah, rather. And just because the money is in your bank account, it doesn't mean that that's your money. Just because that food is in your home doesn't mean it's your food. These are all entrusted to you by Allah. That means you have to use it in a cause that is accepted by Allah. You cannot waste it. And moderation is key. You know, it's not, again, I will reiterate one more time, it's not against people. The Imams are not against people who are going out and making a living. They're not against that. But they want to make us really aware of this idea of going to overdo things, to go toward extravagance. And that's not acceptable. So first, deduct your needs, and then use the remaining for the good of other people who are in need. And just if we look back to Karbala, who are the people of extravagance? The people of extravagance were the enemies of Imam Hussain. On the night before Ashura, they're the ones with the big feast, they're the ones with the party, they're the one with the alcohol. Those are the people of extravagance. If you look at the side of Abdullah Hussain, Shabbi Ashur, they say that Imam Hussain and his companions are doing so much ibadat that it sounded like the buzzing of bees. It was so peaceful. What a peaceful. So much ibadat. But they weren't the people of extravagance. Rather, Imam Hussain gave everything he had. Everything he had. And it wasn't just about Abdullah Hussain. You look toward even the mothers of Karbala. How much did these mothers give? There's one mother that stands out. Rabah. On the day of Ashura, Imam Hussain alayhi salam takes this child who hadn't even been moving, who hadn't drank even a drop of water, 3 days, a 6-month-old child. Imam Hussain alayhi salam takes this child toward the battlefield. He says to the enemies that if I've done anything wrong to you, this child has nothing to do with it. Give this child some water. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam says, if you think I will take the water will you give me? I'll put the child on the ground. So you can give the child water with your bare hands. So Imam Hussain lays the 6-month-old child down on the burning ground of Karbala. The enemies can't stand this. They begin to cry. Imam Hussain sees no one's about to give his child any water. He picks it up and the asghar in his hands. Show them how thirsty you are. And the asghar begins to move his dry tongue around his dry lips. The enemies begin to cry. They can't see this. They can't bear the sight anymore. Umar ibn Sa'd sees his enemies, sees the soldiers, they begin to cry. It looks like they may move over to the side of Imam Hussain. He says to Hurmala, cut off the words of Hussain. Hurmala la'natullahi alayhi, he prepares an arrow, he puts it on the bow, he tries to shoot the arrow but it falls to the ground. He tries again, his hand shakes, arrow falls on the ground. Umar ibn Sa'd says, Hurmala, you're supposed to be the best archer in the land. What happened? Why can't you shoot this child? Hurmala says, oh Ibn Sa'd, you don't see what I see. That whenever I try to shoot this child with an arrow, I see the Prophet telling me, Hurmala, don't kill this child. What has this child done to you? Umar ibn Sa'd says, oh Hurmala, you're just seeing things. If you kill this child, I'll give you more wealth than you can imagine. Now this time Hurmala readies an arrow to his bow. He fires. They say, the narration say that the arrow goes min al-udhun ila al-udhun. It went in one ear and out the other. Other narrations say that the arrow went through the throat of Al-Yasar. Why the contradiction? There's an alim in Najaf, a student asked him that very question. The alim said, there's no contradiction there. Because the arrow that was used on the 6-month-old child was a 3-headed arrow meant for large animals. So if it went in one ear and out the other, it also went through the throat of Al-Yasar. The blood of the child flows into the hands of Abu Abdullah. Imam Hussain, he wants to throw this blood toward the sky where the sound comes. If you throw this innocent blood toward the sky, then there will not rain a drop until the day of judgment. Imam Hussain tries to throw this blood toward the ground, but the ground begins to shake, the sound comes. Oh Hussain, if you throw this blood onto the ground, it will not yield a single crop until the day of judgment. Where is Hussain going to put this blood? And they say that Hussain takes the blood and rubs it on his own face and his beard. This is how I will face my grandfather on the day of judgment. Imam Hussain alayhi salam begins to move toward the tent. But how does he show the mother? How does he show the mother the body of a 6-month-old child? And he moves forward as if to go toward the mother, but then he moves back as if to say, how can I show the mother the child? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Radad bi qada'ihi tasliman li amrih. Imagine the patience of that man who after his own child was stuck with the 3-headed arrow, he's saying, oh Allah, I'm at peace with you. But finally Imam Hussain moves forward into the tent. He moves his Rabab, sees the body of the child, and she says, oh my son, do even children like you get slaughtered in this land? They say that Imam Hussain went toward the back of the tent. He went behind the tent, he dug a grave for the asghar. He buried the child. But normally when we bury somebody, we put water on the grave, right? My Maulana had no water to put on the grave of his child. But instead he cried so much that the grave was wet. But on the 11th of Muharram, when Imam Hussain a few days after, the 12th of Muharram, 13th of Muharram, when Imam Sajjad comes to bury the body of Imam Hussain, they say that Imam Sajjad was looking for something. He looked like he was looking for something. And people asked him, what are you looking for? And Imam Sajjad was looking for the body of Al-Yasr. You already heard though that Al-Yasr was buried behind the tent. He was buried already. Why would Imam go after a body or find a body that was already buried? It's because on the 11th of Muharram, the enemies began to one by one collect heads. The bodies had been beheaded. One by one they came to Ibn Sa'd. And Ibn Sa'd gave out the heads as trophies. There was one man who said, oh Ibn Sa'd, I trampled over the body of Hussain, I must have a head. Ibn Sa'd says, I've given all the heads already. I've distributed every single one. He said, no, I insist on Ibn Sa'd. I must have a head. Ibn Sa'd begins to think. He says, what about the 6-month-old child of Hussein? One man says, I saw him bury the child behind the tent. Ibn Sa'd says, go find that body. The enemies come on their horses. They have spears in their heads. They reach that land, the space where Imam Hussein buried the child. One by one, they strike the ground with their spears. One spear hits something soft. They pull the body of Ali Asghar from the ground. The neck has not quite been severed yet. This man, he takes the feet of Ali Asghar in one hand, the head of Ali Asghar in the other. He separates the head from the body with his bare hands. He throws the body to Rabab. Rabab is seeing this play out in front of her eyes. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We ask Allah to make us the followers of Imam Sahib Rasul Zaman and to hasten his reappearance. We ask Allah to remove this extravagance from our own behaviors. We ask Allah, all those who are in need, all those who are ill, please give them shifa. All those people who have lost their job or have lost their income, please give them income, please give them sustenance. And please make us the best followers of Imam Sahib.
Jazakallah.
अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के रास्ता बना रही है बिन्ते अली का फिजा कांटे हटा हटा के अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के परदेश में किसी पर ऐसा ना वक्त आए ना महरमों में कोई यूं बेरदाना जाए करते हैं ये दुआएं अहले हरम के बच्चे झोली उठा उठा के अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के माई बहन के आगे यमुनों की दारें बिन्ते अली के सांसें कम होती जा रही हैं खंजर चला रहा है ज़ैनब के दिल पे जालिम खंजर दिखा दिखा के
अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के। अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के।
एक बच्ची कह रही है आओ मदद को बाबा, दादी की तरह मैं भी अब हो गई ज़ईफ़ा। ज़ख्मी किया है पहलू ना कैसे ज़ालिमों ने मुझको गिरा गिरा के।
अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के। अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के।
पर्दे में भी जो भी चलती न थी ज़ियादा, परदेश में अब उन पर आया है वक्त कैसा। लाए हैं शाम वाले उन शाहज़ादियों को पैदल चला चला के।
अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के। अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के।
वो शामियों के ताने, वो मुस्कुरात चेहरे, बेपर्दा साथ अपने बिन्ते अली को लेके। सज्जाद कैसे भूले उस भीड़ से गुजरना, नजरे झुका झुका के।
अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के। अब्बास की बहन को शामी रुला रहे हैं चादर दिखा दिखा के।
गुल ज़हरा असवर गुल ज़हरा असवर गुल ज़हरा असवर गुल ज़हरा असगर माँ की तमन्ना असवर गुल ज़हरा असगर मादर गमगी मेरी जान, मादर गमगी मेरी को संभाले किस उन्वान, दिल को संभाले किस उन्वान। देख वीरार सुनसान, के वीरार सुनसान, खाली झूला है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर। वन में अकेले सोते हो, वन में अकेले सोते हो, रात में तन्हा होते हो, रात में तन्हा होते हो। शेर खुदा के पोते हो, खुदा के पोते हो, डर के न रोना है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर। तिफली में हिम्मत की तुमने, तिफली में हिम्मत की तुमने, वीरो जवान से बढ़ चढ़ के, वीरो जवान से बढ़ चढ़ के, खेल के आए तीरों से, खेल के आए तीरों से, दश्त में किस जाए असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर। किसने सितम ये ढाया है, किसने सितम ये ढाया है, वीर कहाँ पे खाया है, वीर कहाँ पे खाया है, हाय कहाँ मुरझाया है, कहाँ मुरझाया है, फूल सा चेहरा है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर। मरती है मादर इस गम में, मरती है मादर इस गम में, बीबियाँ क्यों हैं मातम में, बीबियाँ क्यों हैं मातम में, घर से निकलते ही दम भर में, घर से निकलते ही दम भर में, बन गया बन का है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर, गुल ज़हरा है असवर। बोले से क्या मैं जवाबे खत दुख्तर लिखूं, बोले से क्या मैं जवाबे खत दुख्तर लिखूं, बोले से क्या मैं जवाबे खत दुख्तर लिखूं, बोले क्या मैं जवाबे खत दुख्तर लिखूं, नामा बर देख ले जो हाल है क्यों काले क्यों बोले शे क्या मैं जवाबे खत दो काले बोले से क्या मैं जवाबे खत है प्यार लिखा है जिसे जान से प्यारा कह कर प्यार लिखा है जिसे जान से प्यारा कह कर मर गए तीरे सितम खा के वो असगर लेकिन बोले क्या मैं जवाबे क्या मैं जवाबे कट गए शान चिदी मत सकीना अफसोस कट गए शान चिदी मत सकीना अफसोस कट गए शान चिदी मत सकीना अफसोस बिछड़े परदेस में बास दिलावर लेकिन बोले क्या मैं जवाबे खत दुख्तर बोले शे क्या मैं जवाबे खत नर गए फौज यजीदी में है बाबा उसका नर गए फौज यजीदी में है बाबा उसका कत्ल करने का है माता ये लश्कर लेकिन बोले शे क्या मैं जवाबे खत दुख्तर लेकिन बोल शे क्या मैं जवाबे खत दुख्तर लेकिन सैन मुसीबत की घड़ी मुसीबत की घड़ी और शाम के बढ़ते हुए साए मुसीबत की घड़ी शाम के बढ़ते हुए गुजर जाना है लेखा है जवानी में अगर यारा गुजर जाना है लेखा है जवानी में अगर यारा गुजरने से अली अकबर के पहले माँ गुजर जाए मुसीबत की घड़ी मुसीबत की घड़ी और शाम के बड़ हुए वही अंदाजा कर सकता है दर्द लैला का, वही अंदाजा कर सकता है दर्द कल्ब लैला का। नजर के सामने जिसके जवां बेटा सीना खाए, मुसीबत की घड़ी शाम के बढ़ते हुए साए, संभल कर खींचिएगा कल्बे अकबर से सीना मौला, संभल कर खींचिएगा कल्बे अकबर से सीना मौला। उलझ कर नोके नेज़ा से जिगर बाहर न आ जाए, मुसीबत की घड़ी शाम के बढ़ते हुए
मजबूर है माँ तुझको कफन दे नहीं सकती, कुछ कह नहीं सकती। अफसोस के चादर भी नहीं है मेरे सर पर, सदके हो ये मादर मैया सकीना, ये माँ कहती थी रोकर, सदके हो ये मादर। सीने पे जवां बेटे ने जब आई थी बरती, मैं देख रही थी, मैं देख रही थी। सीने पे जवां बेटे ने जब खाई थी बरती, मैं देख रही थी।
और ज़िबा हुआ सामने मेरे अली असगर सदके हो ये मादर मैया सकीना ये माँ कहती थी रोकर सदके हो ये मादर सजाद से लाशा तेरा किस तरह उठेगा बीमार है भैया बीमार है भैया सजाद से लाशा तेरा किस तरह उठेगा बीमार है भैया इतना तो जरा सोचती तन्हा है बराबर सदके हो ये मादर भैया सकीना ये माँ कहती थी रोकर सदके हो ये
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We recite the Ziyarat Ashura on behalf of all the marhumin, on behalf of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, on behalf of all those facing distress, qurbatan ilallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen wa ibn Sayyid al-Wasiyyin. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. ولعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم. ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان. ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة. ولعن الله ابن مرجان. ولعن الله عمر بن سعد. ولعن الله شمرا. ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك. وأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم. وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى شياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم والبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابي بمصيبتي مصيبة أعظمها وأعظم رزقها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلاة ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبرك
به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقفا فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم وظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين عليه السلام وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر لحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانة وعمر بن سعد المشرك وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. السلام عليكم جميعا من كل المسلمين من ذرية الحسين عليه السلام. السلام عليك الصاحب والسلام وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا قائدا وناصرا ودليلا أين حتى تسكنه وارزقها تقوى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. اسمعوا ذلك محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اے رب جاں پنجتن پاک کا صدقہ اس قوم کا دامن غم شبیر سے بھر دے. بچوں کو عطا کر علی اصغر کا تبسم، بوڑھوں کو حبیب ابن مظاہر کی نظر دے. کم سن کو ملائے والولائے اور محمد ہر ایک دعا کو علی اکبر کا ذکر دے. ماں کو سکا ثانی زہرا کا سقیقہ، بہنوں کو سکینہ کی دعاؤں کا اثر دے. مولا تیرے زینب کی اسیری کی قسم ہے، بے جرم اسیروں کو رہائی کی خبر دے. یہ چادر زینب کے دار مولا محفوظ ہے ایسے خواتین کے پردے. جو دین کے کام آئے ولاد عطا کر، جو مجلس شبیر کی خاطر ہو کر دے. مخلص اللہ جوائر کی بارش مخلوص کا ہر قرض ادا غیر سے کر دے. غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر، غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر. شبیر کا غم بانٹ رہا ہے تو ادھر نعرے حیدری، دشمنان شبیر تیرے پیر پہ لانا، مادر پہ تبرات تیری ہمشیر پہ لانا.
Moving tomorrow morning again, the Majlis will be here at 7:30, and tonight at 5 o'clock, the Majlis will be at the Texas Road Cemetery.